Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you joined us this morning. We do have a lot of breaking news to cover. Let's start with a comment this coming from Mark. He writes, "Good morning, Frank." Well, good morning, Mark. "I see they are investigating into Obamacare. They are claiming he profited big from it." I have not seen that, Mark. I'll have to do a little more research. "And old Hillary Clinton is cutting down Trump for his handling of the war in Ukraine." We're going to talk about that in the Munich conference in just a little bit. First, breaking early this morning, Reverend Jesse Jackson has passed away at the age of 84, a former presidential candidate. He died peacefully surrounded by his loved ones, his family said in a Facebook statement. They said, quote, "He elevated the voices of the voiceless and left an indelible mark in history. Our father was a servant leader, not only to our family, but to the oppressed, the voiceless, and the overlooked around the world." Now, you may recall, I think it was quite a few years ago now, that he was diagnosed, I think, with Parkinson's. Yes, in 2017, that he had Parkinson's disease. So, Reverend Jesse Jackson, dead at the age of 84. Also, we learned earlier in the day yesterday, that the legendary actor, I would argue probably until yesterday, the best living actor, Robert Duvall, has passed away at the age of 95. His wife confirming it on Facebook, saying, "Yesterday we said goodbye to my beloved husband, cherished friend, and one of the greatest actors of our time." Adding that the actor passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by love and comfort. Robert Duvall asked the question, what was your favorite Duvall movie? And Lonesome Dove has to be up there. I know Lonesome Dove was his favorite character that he played, Gustus McCraig. But of course, think of the movies he was in. To Kill a Mockingbird, Godfathers, Apocalypse Now. Continuing, his wife said to the world, he was an Academy Award-winning actor, a director, a storyteller. To me, he was simply everything. His passion for his craft was matched only by his deep love for characters, a great meal, and holding court. She said that Robert gave everything to his characters and to the truth of the human spirit they represented. In doing so, he leaves something lasting and unforgettable to us all. Thank you for the years of support you showed Bob and for giving us the time and privacy to celebrate the memories he leaves behind. I mean, again, you look at his list of movies. Godfather, he was amazing in as Tom Hagen. He said it always comes back to The Godfather. The first ones are two of the best films ever made. About a quarter of the way into it, we knew we had something special. He was in Apocalypse Now, like I mentioned. Tender Mercies, remember that? True Grit, oh, that's right. I forgot he was in True Grit. Young. Oh, MASH, the movie. We can continue here. Lonesome Dove, as I said, he considered it his best character. Lonesome Dove is an amazing, that's a miniseries. But again, Robert Duvall passing away at the age of 95. Okay, some other breaking stories, and feel free to weigh in. What's your favorite Robert Duvall movie? It was announced yesterday Anderson Cooper is leaving 60 Minutes after turning down an offer from CBS News to renew his contract. Cooper, who also anchors his AC 360 show weeknights on CNN and is a correspondent for the cable news network, has been a correspondent with 60 Minutes for nearly 2 decades. He was reportedly on CBS News editor-in-chief Barry Wise's shortlist for the next anchor to helm CBS Evening News. But now, according to Cartwright, Cooper has not only rebuffed Wise's efforts to recruit him at the evening anchor desk, he's walking away from his role at 60 Minutes. Citing sources familiar with the matter, Cartwright reported that Cooper had been offered a contract renewal, but decided to pass and make his exit instead and not return for the fall season. Now there's some, I guess you could say, drama going on behind the scenes at CBS with Barry Wise, but Anderson Cooper not renewing his contract with 60 Minutes. Okay, a couple updates from yesterday's broadcast and from broadcasts we've had in recent days before we talk about Munich. I wanted to mention this. Lee Zeldin, and we do have a couple, because Lee Zeldin, New York, of course, ran for governor. We do have a couple of New York State updates. Not a lot this morning, but a few things worth mentioning. But yesterday, Lee Zeldin put out a piece. If you're not familiar, he's the head of the EPA. He put out a piece for Fox News, and he said for 16 years, the so-called endangerment finding has been the weapon of choice for climate change zealots in Washington. And this is in reference to the sweeping changes that Zeldin and the Trump administration made. I believe that was last week that we brought that to you. Created by the Obama EPA in 2009, it justified trillions of dollars in regulations, restricted which cars to be manufactured, and drove up the cost of living for American families. It pushed this country toward an unpopular electric vehicle mandate, imposed crushing compliance requirements, and promoted a new level of government overreach that has made hardworking Americans' blood boil. On Thursday, standing alongside President Trump in the White House, I was proud to announce that the endangerment finding has been eliminated, and with it, all federal greenhouse gas emission standards for vehicles and engines that followed. This is the single largest deregulatory action in U.S. history, and it will save American taxpayers over $1.3 trillion. The action will result in an average savings of more than $2,400 per vehicle. By eliminating regulatory compliance costs, we're making it easier for families to buy the car they actually want, improving affordability, and helping Americans reach jobs, grow small businesses, and participate fully in the transportation and logistics systems that power the U.S. economy. If you're just joining us again, this is Lee Zeldin, the head of the EPA. As an added bonus, the incentive for one of the most unpopular features in modern vehicles, the automatic start-stop system, has been eliminated. I heard how much Americans hate this feature while visiting all 50 states this past year. The system shuts off the engine at red lights, drains batteries faster, and delivers no meaningful environmental benefit. It was nothing more than a climate participation trophy, a regulatory incentive that let automakers claim green credits on paper without delivering real-world results. Automakers should never be forced to adopt or be rewarded for technologies Americans don't want. The Trump EPA will choose consumer choice over climate posturing every time. Let me be clear about why we took this action. The American people demanded it, and the law required it. The Obama administration stretched the Clean Air Act beyond recognition to claim that carbon dioxide from tailpipes, combined with 5 other gases, some of which vehicles do not even emit, constituted air pollution that contributed to global climate change and endangered public health and welfare. For decades, EPA understood that the Clean Air Act addressed pollution that directly harms people's health in their communities, not global climate policy. But the Obama-Biden administration twisted the law to seize power it was never given, and the endangerment finding was its weapon of choice. Since then, the Supreme Court has made clear in landmark decisions, such as Loper Bright Enterprises v. Raimondo and West Virginia v. EPA, or VEPA, that agencies cannot twist statutes to seize power Congress never granted. Major policy decisions of this magnitude belong to Congress, not unelected bureaucrats. Unlike our predecessors, the Trump EPA follows the law as written and as Congress intended, not as climate activists might wish it to be. These same activists do not want Americans to know that their widely unfounded predictions never came true. The endangerment finding was built on projections and assumptions that did not materialize over the past 16 years. The same types of models relied on by previous administrations and climate activists to bolster the endangerment finding failed to withstand scrutiny. The Trump EPA now finds that even if the United States eliminates all greenhouse gas emissions from every vehicle on the road, there would be no material impact on global climate change, the core assumption used in 2009 to justify these regulations. Let that sink in. Trillions of dollars in unnecessary costs were imposed on American families. Americans lost freedoms that should never have been taken away. The Trump EPA creates policy rooted in reality, not ideology. This was not a decision we made lightly. We conducted a transparent rulemaking process with a 52-day public comment period, 4 days of virtual public hearings where more than 600 people testified, and roughly 572,000 public comments. We listened, made substantial updates, and delivered. Affordable vehicle ownership is at the heart of the American dream. It is how families get to work, how small businesses move goods, and how millions of Americans in rural communities without public transit access healthcare, education, and opportunity. It remains one of the primary drivers of economic mobility in the United States. The regulations built on the endangerment finding place new vehicles further out of reach for American families. The Obama and Biden administrations pushed towards EV mandates, pressured automakers to scale back traditional gasoline and diesel trucks, and re-engineered fleets toward technologies they argue are uneconomic and infeasible. The cost of these climate policies fell hardest on Americans who could least afford it. President Trump promised to unleash American energy, revive the American auto industry, and put the American people first. We delivered on that promise in what we believe is the largest deregulatory action and cost-saving measure for Americans in U.S. history. The era of government knows best climate regulation is over. The American dream is back. Promises made, promises kept. So that, Lee Zeldin, former gubernatorial candidate, now head of the EPA, the 17th administrator of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, on his and Trump's decision of ending the endangerment finding that we talked so much about last week. Okay, when we return, we're going to talk about Munich, what was said there, AOC making her kind of foreign policy debut. You had that wonderful speech by Marco Rubio. Gavin Newsom, ironically, as we just read that from Lee Zeldin, Gavin Newsom pushing these green policies. We're going to tell you about that as well. There's quite a bit from Munich that I think is worth mentioning. We have a couple of New York State updates if we get an opportunity. Not a lot there, but a couple of interesting pieces. And we also have some kind of, I guess you would say, woke updates, mostly in regard to ICE. We'll talk about that as well. But we're just getting warmed up, just getting started. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here at WYDC TV, Big Fox.
You have cabin fever? Are you dreaming of warmer weather? Now's the time to start enjoying the benefits of hot water therapy during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale. With 0% interest financing and additional sales incentives, Hesselson's makes it easier to start making every day better today. Huge savings on odds and end models, 0% financing, locally owned and operated since 1955. Why wait? Now is the best time to buy that hot tub you've always wanted during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale going on now. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Insurance companies don't make money by paying claims. They make money by denying them. They hire doctors to say you're not that hurt. They bring in lawyers to chip away at your case. They stall, they argue, they cut corners, because every dollar they save is another dollar of profit. At WYDC Injury Law, we know their tactics, and we fight back with facts and evidence. If you've been injured in New York or Pennsylvania, call 607-500-HURT. Don't let the insurance companies control your story.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Pretty mild out there today as we top out near 50 degrees. That's a good 10 to 15 degrees above average. Might have a couple of very light showers and or snow showers very early this morning, but things will be quieting down. And then some steadier rain develops during the day tomorrow, and looking at some mild conditions yet through Friday. Another rain snow chance on Friday, and looking at some cooler temperatures with a light snow chance.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Ball Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back. broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Mark writes in, so if the emissions from cars are not detrimental, boy oh boy, Corning Incorporated made a ton of money off of catalytic converters, even on the big trucks called diesel particulate filters. Thank you, Mark. Okay. First of all, the U.S. military is continuing a significant buildup of air and naval assets in the Middle East ahead of this planned talk today with Iran in Geneva. The pieces are being moved into place both to intimidate Tehran and to have options to strike inside the country should negotiations over its nuclear program fail, according to multiple sources familiar with the matter, and they told CNN. U.S. Air Force assets based in the United Kingdom, including refueling tankers and fighter jets, are being repositioned closer to the Middle East. The U.S. is also continuing to flow air defense systems to the region, according to a U.S. official, and several U.S. military units deployed in the region that were expected to rotate out in the coming weeks have had their orders extended. On Friday evening, multiple fighter aircrafts were also given diplomatic clearance to enter Jordanian airspace. So this will be interesting and I know that Iran is doing some of these kind of war games in preparation to today's talk in Geneva. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. But speaking of the international front, did you see, well, Mark had mentioned it with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton bristled at the Munich Security Conference over the weekend when the Czech Deputy Prime Minister, Peter Mackinac, attempted to defend President Trump's policies. We mentioned this to you yesterday. Clinton raged that Trump has betrayed the West and is seeking unaccountable power by modeling himself after Vladimir Putin. Mackinac, who also serves as foreign minister of the Czech Republic, gently mocked the failed 2016 presidential candidate's anger towards Trump, saying, "First, I think you really don't like him." That's when Hillary, and again, I'm not really sure, this Munich Security Conference confuses me. I'm not sure, I guess because she was Secretary of State at one time, but why Hillary Clinton is a guest on one of the panel. But she shot back, that is absolutely true. But I really, not only do I do not like him, I don't like him because of what he's doing to the United States and the world. And I think you should take a hard look at it if you think that there is something good that will come out of it. He went on to assess, Mackinac went on to assess Trump's second-term approach, saying, well, what I think Trump is doing to America, I think that is a reaction for some policies that really went too far from the regular people, too far from reality. So Hillary not liking this pushback, interrupting kind of rudely, saying, like what? Give us an example. Mackinac cited cancel culture, the woke revolution, the gender revolution, and climate alarmism. And needless to say, Hillary Clinton did not like that. Interjecting which gender? Women having their rights? What a week. What a week go to. You can tell it's been a while since she's had a debate. And let's face it, when she debated Trump, did not do a good job. So maybe not what you would call her skill set. Manica, I'm pronouncing his name different every time. Macon chuckled as the moderator begged the former First Lady to stop interrupting. Mackinac said, I think there are two genders, but some of us think there are more than one or more than two. Sorry, this is something that went too far. Hillary could not drop it. Does that justify selling out the people of Ukraine who are on the front lines dying to save their freedoms and their two genders, if that is what you are so worried about? And again, she's not letting him finish. This is not supposed to be a debate. He's even begging at one point, can I please finish my point? I'm sorry that it makes you nervous. I'm really sorry about that. Clinton, angry at this point, saying it doesn't make me nervous. It makes me very, very unhappy. Okay. So the clash went viral on social media, many users mocking Clinton's disdain for Trump. Heritage Foundation media fellow and comedian Tim Young argued Clinton started freaking out. He handles her perfectly, and even the moderators try to stop her from interrupting while she's losing her mind. Some calling her unhinged. Some saying that he triggered Hillary Clinton's TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Clinton's unhinged interruptions can't be stopped until Maca calmly explains that the truth makes her nervous, leaving Democrats humiliated again, said Dixon. But if you look at the media, for instance, at CNN, Trump's damage is done. Democrats and Europe are struggling to define what's next. Many of the Democrats who came to the Munich Security Conference this weekend want to be president, as, for instance, Gavin Newsom, AOC. But even if one of them can win the White House, they may find they can no longer claim the title every American president since the 1940s had, leader of the free world. So we're no longer, according to CNN, because of Trump, we're no longer the leader of the free world. Your thoughts on this? And they mentioned Gavin Newsom, AOC. AOC, though, came to pitch a left-wing populist foreign policy, but made headlines for a massive stumble instead. A number of Democrat senators, hoping to burnish their foreign policy credentials ahead of possible presidential bids, found themselves in a painfully awkward moment with the Danish prime minister, as some Democrats tried to smooth over remarks that Lindsey Graham made at the start of the meeting that suggested Trump has not given up on his designs on Greenland. Yes, Greenland is back in the news. And most members of the House of Representatives who planned to attend didn't come at all after Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, pulled the plug on the congressional delegation. European thought leaders were reduced to offering a brief standing ovation to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, whose speech was far more conciliatory than the one J.D. Vance delivered at the same gathering last year. But Rubio had kicked off his trip telling American reporters the old world is gone. He also left the conference to fly onward to Slovakia and Hungary, two countries led by strongmen sympathetic to Trump. This is your unbiased report from CNN. The scene in Munich was a far cry from the heyday of the late Republican Senator John McCain, who was central to making the conference a critical stop for anyone hoping to play a role in leading the free world. There's still a dinner named for him on the first night of the conference. His son, Jimmy McCain, represented the family there this year, and his photo and quote hang on the wall on the ground level of the hotel. Trying to carry the torch was Democrat Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, who closed down the basement Trader Vic's Tiki Bar with shots of peach schnapps. How do you say that? Schnapps, as McCain used to. Okay. But there was no one named McCain speaking on the main stage this year, and relatively few members of Congress attended a reception for the delegation hosted by the German chancellor. Anyway, a significant percentage of the U.S. Democratic elected officials who were in Munich are likely hoping to replace Trump in 2028. Gavin Newsom, AOC, Mark Kelly must have been there, along with former Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and Senators Chris Murphy, Elise Slotkin, and Ruben Gallego. Newsom towered and literally above the field, his height making him easy to spot even in the narrow, packed halls of the old hotel. Anyway, I think you get a point. But they did say it was a humbling debut for AOC. Far from her own strengths, the progressive star and arguably the heiress to Bernie Sanders' movement, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez struggled in her first major test on the world stage. She and her team had billed her appearance in Munich as something of a global debut for the famous but U.S.-focused New York Congresswoman, vying to be senator or president. She participated in a forgettable roundtable on populist politics, but a late-night appearance turned the headlines sour. Ocasio-Cortez offers a working-class vision in Munich with some stumbles and led her team to curtail her public and media schedule at the conference. Her chief of staff denied the schedule was curtailed, saying she held a press conference and several bilateral meetings following the first day, as was the plan on arrival in Munich, and when she traveled into Berlin for more public events. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of people are saying word salad. Trust me, CNN does not want to have to in any way, shape, or form knock AOC down a peg, but it was kind of necessary when you see how poorly she performed. We've talked about the word salads over and over. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of the mistakes she made when we return. It's not all going to be Munich, but there's a lot of Munich talk here. We've got a couple updates on the government shutdown. Yes, the government is kind of shut down, pieces of it. We'll talk about that as well. We've got a couple of ICE updates, New York updates, some other things I think you're going to find interesting. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and Horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
What matters most is that our customers, our communities, and our heroes are taken care of. We start by providing American-made gasoline, which means you can buy local, keeping America and your communities strong. We also support vital charities every year and hold Operation Give Thanks each November to help provide a better future for our veterans and their families. We're proud to support the communities we live and work in, and we're doing our best every day to make our towns a better place. Quick though, driving America.
Farm Manding, physically, emotionally, and financially. AIM's new program, Farmers Supporting Farmers, provides peer-driven mental wellness support to the farming and agribusiness community across the Southern Tier and Finger Lakes. We also assist with financial management and business planning. Our team understands the unique pressures of agriculture. We offer resources and guidance to agribusiness workers and their families. All services are free and confidential. To find out more, visit AIMCIL.com or call 888-328-7847.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit aa.org.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Pretty mild out there today as we top out near 50 degrees. That's a good 10 to 15 degrees above average. Might have a couple of very light showers and or snow showers very early this morning, but things will be quieting down. And then some steadier rain develops during the day tomorrow, and looking at some mild conditions yet through Friday. Another rain snow chance on Friday, and looking at some cooler temperatures with a light snow chance.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. What do you hear this nice comment from Jack? Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Jack. Jack thinks CNN is no longer a legitimate news outlet, but rather a tool of the left. I wouldn't be surprised if CNN is controlled by Soros. In my opinion, Frankly Speaking is way further up the news food chain than them. In fact, you're at the very top of my list. Well, thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. It is very telling, though, that even they needed to criticize AOC. That goes to show you a little bit about how bad she did, how in over her head she was. A lot of people saying it shows that she's not ready for prime time. She's being lampooned because she erroneously claimed that Venezuela, which has been heavy in the news lately because of Maduro, Venezuela is, quote, below the equator while trying to show off her foreign policy chops. Now, Venezuela sits just above the equator, but that didn't stop the Democratic Socialist who majored in international relations at Boston University from making the embarrassing gaffe, quote, Nicolas Maduro canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator. Again, remember, she majored in international relations at Boston University. U.S. Senator Bernie Moreno said what's worse is the woke white liberals in Germany felt compelled to clap for her. Wokeness is truly a mind virus, he said. Another user swiped pronouncing Venezuela and Maduro in an accent she definitely doesn't have is among the many accidentally funny things that AOC does while desperately trying to come off as a serious person. So roundly criticized. Bernie Moreno also saying she barely speaks Spanish, is showcasing her lack of basic geography in Europe instead of spending time helping her constituents. What's worse is that they clapped for her. Okay. So Just something to keep in mind. In over her head, some said not ready for prime time. We don't have to go through every quote. Glenn Greenwald did say whoever convinced AOC that she had successfully completed her tutoring and was now ready to give book reports about foreign policy is in public really should look for another line of work. Unless the goal was to sabotage her, in which case kudos for a job well done. Now AOC allies jumped to her defense. Left-wing pundit Mehdi Hassan said, all I see on my timeline is a bunch of Republicans and legacy media reporters parsing every quote and comment from AOC in Germany, trying to mock them for incoherence and inaccuracy. Meanwhile, a ranting, demented old man who can't string sentences together, stay awake, or identify Germany on a map sits in the Oval Office. And what do they call that? Whataboutism? Which none of that is true on the president. But isn't that interesting? To come to her defense, it's when CNN mentions it, things are bad. But I find that really interesting when that person says the legacy media. So is that person suggesting that the legacy media is somehow biased against Democrats? That's really interesting. Okay. But she also, how am I doing on time? Oh, got some waves coming in. AOC has admitted she is no expert on the Middle East, but her false genocide claims against Israel in Germany, of all places, stokes anti-Semitism at home, says Abraham Cooper. Abraham Cooper said, I myself spent 2 days in Munich this month for a series of private discussions with Jewish, Christian, and Muslim peace seekers. The focus on future plans to expand the Abraham Accords, the landmark peace agreement between Israel and several Arab and Muslim states. But I could not shake my earliest memories of the city 47 years ago in 1979. I don't think we have to go through all of this. AOC, the New York congresswoman who may aspire to lead the Democratic Party and the country, came to the Munich conference to gain international exposure and give hope to left-wing Europeans shell-shocked by President Trump's dramatic geopolitical moves. Make no mistake, AOC will long be remembered in Munich. She will be remembered for her historically illiterate and anti-Semitism wrapped in a shroud of Hamas-fed statistics. Not far from where Hitler launched his rise to power on lurid anti-Semitic tropes, AOC chose to accuse the Jewish state of genocide. For the record, the United States and Germany both rejected that new big lie campaign, but not AOC. The global elite at the Munich conference were left to scratch their heads. Who constitutes her base, and who exactly was she pandering to? AOC's decision to spread the genocide slander against Israel and at the very birthplace of Nazism will have an impact back in the U.S., including right in California, where this Abraham Cooper is writing from. Here, the, quote, genocide blood libel has spread into the mainstream of our media, culture, universities, and even our K through 12 classrooms. And we've talked about that so many times on Frankly Speaking and how troubling it is. We have seen mobs march against synagogues and even schools, repeating the same rhetoric AOC deployed in Munich in service of her political ambitions. Anti-Israel campaigners will surely redouble their efforts, inspired by AOC. Likewise, pundits and influencers will measure whether her claim helps or hurts her political ambitions. Last Saturday, incredibly, 250,000 protesters surged into Munich, not demonstrating against Israel, but against the Iranian regime. Similar massive protests would soon fill the streets of London, Toronto, Tokyo, New York, and Los Angeles. Too bad AOC could not be bothered to speak out at Munich against an Iranian regime guilty of crimes against humanity against tens of thousands of its own citizens. Too bad AOC didn't use a nanosecond of her 15 minutes of Munich fame to signal her concern for the suffering of Uyghurs, the Christians, or the Falun Gong in China, for Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong, or for the untold millions everywhere who yearn for the very thing she arrogantly and cluelessly takes for granted, which is freedom. I thought that was an impactful piece, something, unfortunately, we've had to talk about too many times on this program, the rise in anti-Semitism and pushing these essentially Hamas talking points while not finding even a second, as Mr. Cooper said, not even a second to call out Iran. We've got a couple other little quick things. I don't want to spend too much more time on AOC because I do want to talk about Gavin Newsom as well, who was at Munich, and he's getting all on board with these green energy proposals that Trump has called, I think he called it garbage. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then to tie the two together about Marco Rubio, the good job he did. We got some other topics to discuss this morning. Won't be all that. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
It's the Jeep President's Day sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
Can you help me?
Mom, Dad, we're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard them, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at organdonor.gov.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Pretty mild out there today as we top out near 50 degrees. That's a good 10 to 15 degrees above average. Might have a couple of very light showers and or snow showers very early this morning, but things will be quieting down. And then some steadier rain develops during the day tomorrow, and looking at some mild conditions yet through Friday. Another rain snow chance on Friday, and looking at some cooler temperatures with a light snow chance once again.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm sorry, I did miss some of it. So Jack wrote in earlier and saying that he thinks CNN is no longer a legitimate news outlet, but rather a tool of the left. I wouldn't be surprised if CNN is controlled by Soros. In my opinion, Frankly Speaking, is way further up the news food chain than them. In fact, you are at the very top of the list. Now, I'm not just shamelessly reading this again because I missed one part at the end. For me to watch CNN, their studio would need to be on fire. Thank you very much, Jack. I appreciate that. I'm sorry I missed that last little statement. So AOC did her big star appearance at Munich, as I mentioned. But as Rich Lowry said, I like Rich Lowry most of the times, he said that when AOC decided to slam Marco Rubio, who Marco Rubio did a great job, it showed that she's not ready for prime time. AOC is to, I love this line, AOC is to strategic thinkers what Gal King is to astronauts. She projects all the authority of an international relations 101 student who didn't realize that there was going to be a pop quiz before spring break. She sounds as if she watched the 2024 Kamala Harris campaign and concluded that what sank the vice president was that the candidate's policy answers were much too substantive and precise. There's no way, judging by her performance in Germany, that AOC is going to let herself make that same mistake. She critiqued Secretary of State Marco Rubio's remarkable speech at the conference for being, quote, a pure appeal to Western culture, which she rendered with air quotes as though its existence is somehow in doubt. It is certainly true, as she said, that culture changes over time, but this doesn't alter the reality of Western distinctiveness as it has developed over a couple of millennia. AOC seemed to consider it a provocation that Rubio had talked about Western culture when discussing a Western alliance, NATO, founded to defend Western countries from a totalitarian menace emanating from a Eurasian behemoth. In fact, the Secretary's speech was well received and persuasively set out the common history and roots of Europe and the United States. I would even say CNN gave it as much of a positive review as they can when they said it wasn't as combative as J.D. Vance's. And unfortunately, that comes as glowing praise, I suppose. The AOC rejoinder was that she called alleged Western values are essentially fake because they haven't always defined our interactions with the global South. Even if the West hasn't always lived up to its values, though, that doesn't falsify them or make them any less powerful. The best formula for success for underdeveloped countries around the world would be for them to westernize in the sense of embracing the rule of law, property rights, markets, and stable representative government. AOC also said that culture is thin compared to economic interests. This belief that material considerations trump cultural ones, from religious faith to national identity, is an old Marxist chestnut that has proved false over and over again. At the outset of World War I, the AOCs of the time believed that the working class of the various combatant countries would unite to oppose the conflict. As it happened, they backed the war efforts of their own nations. The average American worker has nothing in common with a Chinese worker, or for that matter, a French or German worker. AOC is hoping for, in effect, a fourth international as a foundation of class-based U.S. foreign policy. Democrats, socialists of the world unite. This is a childish fantasy, but wasn't the least impressive thing she said at Munich. Asked whether the United States should defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese attack, AOC hesitated and stumbled as though the question had never occurred to her before, not answering. She objected to our operation against Nicolas Maduro. We undertook, quote, it just because a nation is below the equator when Venezuela is north of the equator. She poured scorn on Rubio's statement that American cowboy culture was born in Spain, apparently not realizing that he was wholly correct about this. AOC is young and charismatic with a long career ahead of her. No one is ever going to expect her to be, the leader of the USA or even the Democratic Socialists of America. Yet her time at the Munich conference was another reminder that no matter how much she is billed as a rising star, she is still callow and unserious. If AOC knows what he doesn't know, she doesn't particularly care. And her casual disregard for Western culture is symptomatic of a less that, to its shame, consider its own civilization an affront and a lie. All right, that's enough on AOC. Now we jump over to Gavin Newsom. So those are two of the main characters in the 2028 fight. Now, a lot of people, and I don't know where I would lean on this, but a lot of people believe that she will either primary or just outright run, and he'll retire Chuck Schumer's Senate seat. That seems maybe a little bit more up her alley, but I think she likes the attention she gets when she responds, for instance, to J.D. Vance, basically suggesting that maybe she will run for president. I think she likes that attention. I don't think she helped herself at Munich. I don't think Gavin Newsom helped himself at Munich. Gavin Newsom told world leaders in Munich that President Donald Trump is temporary and un-American. He'll be gone in 3 years, Newsom said. Well, that's true of every president. Each is in office for only 4 years or 8 years. In our democracy, power changes hands between people, if not always between parties. But Newsom was making a broader point in the context of discussion about climate change. And this is important because we know that Trump and Lee Zeldin made huge changes at the EPA. You've got to realize, I know you do, depending on how 2028 goes, they will all be overturned. That's why we said one of the litmus tests for the Democrat Party is going to be whether or not they will tear down the ballroom. They want to erase everything Trump's done. So Gavin Newsom's point here is, don't worry, this 3-year gap of not blind, loyal adherence to the cause of global warming, it'll be over after 3 years, according to Gavin Newsom. We talk about the Environmental Protection Acts, or Environmental Protection Agency and the endangerment rule that we mentioned earlier with Lee Zeldin, rolling that back. In the first term, we got out of the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Agreement. Voters sent Trump back to the White House in 2024 with a similar mandate. He set the process of repealing the Obama-era rule in motion almost as soon as he arrived in the Oval Office. This is what the American people wanted. What Newsom told the global elite was, in effect, never mind democracy, never mind the will of the people, the rule of the bureaucracy will always endure. And that is very much, we've talked about it in the past, the mindset of the left. Once Trump is gone, we will find a way to reimpose the climate change agenda with all its costs. We will be like Europe, idealistic and stagnant, bold on saving the planet, meek on saving itself from invasion. That may be how government has worked for the last decade or so in California. Newsom and Jerry Brown before him simply imposed a radical green agenda on the state that never faced the voters. Like Brown, Newsom has adopted the dubious practice of signing meaningless declarations with foreign governments, national and provincial. The purpose is to signal loyalty to the global environmental movement and to express dissent against the democratically elected administration of the United States. That is inappropriate, as Trump said, in a democracy, and in fact, it's anti-democratic. California is the most populous state in the union, but the American people are far larger, and most do not want to live under Newsom's climate change mandates. They see the rising gas and energy prices in California, in New York, and these left states, the threat of electricity shortages, the regulations that have taken the Golden State's unemployment rate to the highest in the nation, and they want no part of it. Living in a democracy means accepting that verdict, and who knows, California voters might decide that the rest of the country has been right all along. All right, a little bit more on Gavin Newsom. We got a lot still left to talk about. We fell into kind of a Munich trap, didn't we? Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
Lease a brand new 2026 Chevy Equinox 1LT all-wheel drive with Geely's Loyalty or Conquest bonus for only $339 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I've been talking a lot about Munich. I'd love to hear what your favorite Robert Duvall movie was. So Trump is right. Newsom's climate diplomacy is garbage. That's what Trump called it. Gavin went to Munich to complain about Trump and to run an alternative foreign policy, signing a memorandum of understanding on climate change with the left-wing British government. Now, I do find this interesting with Gavin Newsom. I know he's trying to come off presidential, but he's trying to use like kind of Trump tactics. We've talked about that, where people even in his own party who support him said that the shtick was getting a little old. Trump did not take kindly to him signing that memorandum, declaring that everything Newsom touches turns to, quote, garbage, and nothing that it was, and then noting that it was inappropriate for a governor to be conducting diplomacy. Well, and again, he's kind of play acting. He wants to get the pictures with the leaders and make it look like he is, quote unquote, presidential. And it seems like, Newsom's upset with Trump and Lee Zeldin's endangerment finding rollback. The California governor called the repeal doubling down on stupid. But he has the most to lose because if he doubles down on renewables, energy prices between the Golden State and the rest of the U.S. will widen even further, leaving Californians in the dust. And that's one thing, as Gavin Newsom runs for president, you will not see the coverage of how bad California is doing in the mainstream media. They won't talk about these high costs, whether it's through the green policies, whether it's through his soft on crime approaches, these type of things. They won't cover it. Because it would be detrimental to his campaign. So we don't have to go through the whole history of all this. But thanks to Trump and Zeldin, American taxpayers will save over $1 trillion by scrapping federal emission standards for cars and further trillions by ending emission standards for power plants and appliances. Plus, America will strike a blow at China and pull ahead of Europe by ending American reliance on Chinese-made wind turbines, solar panels, and electric vehicles. Here's the deal. Climate change is real, but a strong economy is what people need to deal with. Says Diane Roth. Moving energy-intensive manufacturing to China, where products are made with dirtier coal-fired power plants, doesn't reduce emissions. It simply shifts them from one part of the globe to another. Zeldin's EPA concluded that no legal basis for the endangerment finding, meaning the Clean Air Act, never gave the agency authority to set emission standards for greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane. It also found that Obama's 2009 findings exceeded the EPA's authority to combat air pollution. Real pollutants like carbon monoxide, lead, and sulfur dioxide, those are still regulated. The Obama rules, disastrous for American consumers, raised transportation and electricity costs while handing economic power over to China. Again, we don't need to keep going through this because this seems to be the topic that we've discussed this morning. But Trump and Zeldin's regulatory rollback mark a pivotal moment in environmental policy, one that puts the interests of everyday Americans and the strength of the U.S. economy front and center and ahead of China. That's exactly what California needs, and Newsom should be applauding Trump, not trying to undermine him and America on the world stage. And there is something about that. The same with AOC. And your thoughts on this? And you guys are a little quiet this morning. With AOC and Newsom, there's something uncomfortable about these quote-unquote leaders going to a foreign country and essentially bad-mouthing not only the president, but the country they come from. That's what we heard from AOC, essentially. So something about that doesn't sit right. But we got a couple last-minute things on this. I didn't mean to spend this much time on it, but there is a couple things worth mentioning, a couple opinion pieces that I think you're going to find interesting. But we got to get ready to wrap up hour number one, so get those comments coming in, and we'll be right back.
In the heart of nature, collisions happen when you least expect them. Deer hits can turn a tranquil drive into a chaotic moment. When the unexpected happens, turn to Scott's Collision. At Scott's Collision, we understand the frustration of unexpected encounters with wildlife. From dense to more extensive damage, we've got you covered. When nature and your vehicle collide, trust Scott's Collision to bring it back to life.
It's the Jeep and Stay sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Pretty mild out there today as we top out near 50 degrees. That's a good 10 to 15 degrees above average. Might have a couple of very light showers and or snow showers very early this morning, but things will be quieting down. And then some steadier rain develops during the day tomorrow, and looking at some mild conditions yet through Friday. Another rain snow chance on Friday, and looking at some cooler temperatures with a light snow chance once again.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back and ready to wrap up hour number one. Viewer writes in, Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I was disappointed to see that Joe Biden was ranked 38 on the best to worst presidents list. By splitting Trump's 2 terms, he made it possible for Trump to regroup and get it right the second time. And what about the most votes for a president in history? 6 million more than Trump and a whopping 15 million more than Hillary Clinton? Joe will always be special to me. Well, there is something to be said about, absolutely, and I like you, I appreciate your comment, about the regrouping, where Trump had those 4 years to, maybe you could use the term, stew, and to think of things that he would want to do, and he hit the ground running. That is for sure. All right, we got just a couple last things on Munich, and then we're going to move along. We have a few things here about the Democrat Party, a few things here about the Republican Party. We may get to New York State issues. There's not a lot going on with the gubernatorial campaign. There is a piece that was put out yesterday saying that even though the conference, the Republican conference, was a big party, behind the scenes, the Republicans are not feeling very confident about their chances in New York. Your thoughts on that? And what else are we going to talk about? Oh, if you are just joining us, we mentioned it at the top of the hour. Jesse Jackson did pass away at the age of 84. Oh, Eric Swalwell making news for all the wrong reasons. He's another, well, he's going to run for governor of California because Gavin Newsom is term limited. Eric Swalwell is another one that tries so hard and falls flat so often. And it happened again. I guess the old writings of his, which we'll just say were maybe explicit poetry, have been released. A little weird, not something we're going to read on the air at 7 in the morning. But Eric Swalwell, very confident in himself, we'll put it that way, running for, and I think he is probably the favorite to run for governor in California. So we can talk about that as well. But we've got to take a short break. Let's see. I don't have, Don't forget, coming up on Friday, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, so there's nothing to forget. On Friday, we're going to be talking with former Congressman, current Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski, his monthly interview on Frankly Speaking. We look forward to talking with him on Friday. Next week, we'll be talking with Sheriff Jim Allard. We've got a couple dates set with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano as well on the program. So we're going to have a lot of guests. We're going to be busy. So you've got to tune in every weekday morning at 6. All right, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2, moments away. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and Horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
Pop quiz. First question. When should we wear our life jackets when we're on a boat?
All the time.
You got it. Next question. Before you swim off the boat, what's the first thing you should do?
Make sure the engine is stopped.
Bingo. Last one. Why don't we litter?
Because bad for the fish. Because littering is bad.
You're both right. You guys are awesome.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Akam. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've stuck with us here. Mark writes in, why were these Democratic dumbbells even invited to Germany? They don't have the best interest in the United States, and they certainly don't have any power. I'm not really sure the meaning behind this conference. Seemed like a lot of bluster, but I know it's important. Rubio spoke this year, J.D. Vance the year before. Gavin Newsom was maybe, I wouldn't say he was the most talked about. I would say AOC was probably the most talked about, which was funny because Trump ripped both of them as incompetent. I watched AOC answering questions in Munich. This was not a good look for the United States. I watched Gavin Newsom answering questions in Munich, and it was a bad look for our country. These two people are incompetent. And at least Hillary is competent. She's just Trump deranged. She was so deranged, describing her as an angry woman. Going back to Newsom and Ocasio-Cortez, Trump remarked, I watched the other two speaking and answering basic questions. Look, Gavin has destroyed California, and AOC, I never heard her speak very much. And they started answering questions. She had no idea what was happening. She had no idea how to answer. You know, very important questions concerning the world, but she can't answer questions concerning New York City either. And we don't have to go back through and mention AOC's mistakes. And Newsom, because Newsom's whole thing is going to be to attack Trump nonstop. Is that a winning strategy for 2028? I'm not sure. But remember, he did this before Newsom, and it came off very, very uncomfortable on a world stage. Even some on his own party saying that it kind of has gotten stale. This attacking of the president, not that they like the president. It's just that he needs kind of a new shtick, and it's all he has. Alexandra Mikado says Gavin Newsom's global travel itinerary looks more like that of a foreign minister than the governor of a state in crisis. Remember his disastrous handling of the wildfires. We've got crime and homelessness running rampant. Newsom was just in Munich, hobnobbing with world leaders rather than home, working to make life more affordable for those who elected him. The foreign photo op is a part of a pattern. The governor is all show, no action when it comes to delivering for Californians. In the last year alone, Newsom, perhaps with the 2028 presidential election in mind, has joined the World Economic Forum in Davos, trekked to the Amazon for the UN Climate Conference, and jetted off to Hong Kong in various attempts to make headlines. And also for a guy that's pushing global warming so much and signed that deal with the far-left British government, kind of embarrassing himself, signing that in the name of global warming. He sure does a lot of travel. It doesn't seem to bother him that much to jet set around the world. While the governor fashions himself as a substitute diplomat on the world stage. That's his arrogance, and I forgot that's what he sees himself as. He sees himself as, well, Trump's so bad. You need me to step in and be kind of the substitute diplomat because I'm going to be there in 2028, and then we'll already have started our relationship. The state he oversees is buckling under the weight of his neglect and failed progressive agenda. The most glaring indictment of Newsom's tenure is the state's poor fiscal health. Listen to this. Under his reign, Newsom managed to shift the state from a record $97 billion surplus to a deficit crisis, while the governor's 2026 budget proposal attempts to frame the challenge as a manageable $2.9 billion shortfall. The nonpartisan Legislative Analyst Office has painted a far bleaker picture, projecting an $18 billion deficit. The massive shortfall threatens essential services to those who need them most. This is not just bad luck with the markets. It is a result of a governor who expanded permanent social programs using temporary, volatile tax windfalls. Under Newsom, California is a place where only the ultra-wealthy or the heavily subsidized can afford to live. And we don't have to go through all this because we have our own far-left problems in New York. Leadership is not just about the big ideas shared at a summit in Munich or Davos. It is about these kitchen table ideas that Newsom seems to have outgrown. Every day spent in a forum in Europe is a day the governor is not negotiating with the legislature to solve the insurance company exodus that leaves California homeowners unprotected. Every memorandum of understanding signed in a foreign nation is a distraction from the fact that California's unemployment rate is stuck at 5.5% compared to the national rate of 4.3%. California was once the promised land. Under Gavin Newsom, it has become a warning. If you want to see what the United States would look like under his leadership, we need only look at the persistent hole in California's budget and the tents lining city streets. The California model is not a blueprint for the future. It's a roadmap to decline. I thought that was an important take on that. Liz Peek said, AOC serves word salad as Rubio channels strength. And what are your thoughts? I know we haven't talked about this in a while, but people keep pushing the idea that maybe Rubio would be the Republican candidate because of the great job he's been doing. Now, he has said if J.D. Vance wants it, it's J.D. Vance's to have. Your thoughts on that? I don't want to go through all of this, but Rubio's speech was challenging, calling out European allies for succumbing to climate zealotry, encouraging mass migration, exporting industrial self-sufficiency, and investing in massive welfare states at the cost of maintaining the ability to defend themselves. But as the headlines keep saying, it wasn't as aggressive as J.D. Vance's, but the Wall Street Journal editorial board described Rubio's speech as drawn from Ronald Reagan's playbook, arguing that Trump's greatest failure as president is that he won't or can't articulate his larger principles. That's from the Wall Street Journal. I would argue that Trump is putting those principles into action coherently and consistently, and that Rubio brilliantly summarized the Trump doctrine. But again, many people, not just in more conservative circles, saying that Rubio did a great job in his speech, where AOC showed she wasn't ready for prime time, not even close. It was quite a stumble for her. She delivered remarks at the forum, as we mentioned, and reminded us why she should not be allowed anywhere near the Oval Office. Former Vice President Kamala Harris introduced Americans to the magic of the word salads, the endless spewing of language that says nothing while helpfully obscuring vast pits of ignorance. But AOC maybe has perfected the art. She's known as a fierce critic of Israel, but otherwise is not known for her geopolitical views, having largely spent her career rallying against corporations and the evil rich. But she wants to run for president. It is important for her to demonstrate some basic foreign policy chops, hence the trip to Munich. Unhappily for her, the foray into the world of diplomacy did not go well. Even the New York Times had to admit that she had some, quote, shaky moments. So that's now the New York Times, CNN, shaky, humbling experience. They don't want to come right out and say it because they love her, but it was a disaster for her. And quickly, asked whether the United States should come to Taiwan's aid if China attempted to seize the land, she hesitated for several uncomfortable minutes. Even the description from anti-Trump left-wing Bloomberg, whose reporter had posed the question, said the response was flubbed, and wrote, normally quick to respond, Ocasio-Cortez was at a loss for words, saying, this is such I think that this is of course a very long-standing policy of the United States. Hilariously, the piece added that AOC regrouped with what it called a cogent response, saying the U.S. should avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise. That's cogent? That's what she said, quote, avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise. The Times admitted that Munich outing demonstrated the relative foreign policy inexperience of Ms. Ocasio-Cortez and that she struggled at times to formulate succinct answers. But the Times excused her inabilities, describing the questions posed as probing and specific. Asking her policy vis-a-vis Taiwan is hardly probing. This issue is, along with our relationship with Israel, fundamental. Yes, how often have we talked about that on this program? That is not probing. That is not specific. That is a very important discussion to have, especially if you want to be president. She also mixed up transatlantic partnership, referring it to as Trans-Pacific Partnership, and scoffed at Rubio's claim that American cowboy culture came from Spain, even though it did. But the corker was another response she gave, enthusiastically endorsed by the Times about President Trump's foreign policy. Quote, "They are looking to withdraw the United States from the entire world so that we can turn into an age of authoritarians that can carve out a world where Donald Trump can command the Western Hemisphere and Latin America as his personal sandbox, where Putin can saber rattle around Europe." Yes, AOC, Trump is withdrawing the U.S. from the entire world by trying, what does that mean? By trying to end the war between Ukraine and Russia, deliver the people of Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba from authoritarian regimes, confront China, protect Christians in Nigeria, strengthen Western defense capabilities, and pursue peace in the Middle East. Former President Joe Biden declared that America is back, but did nothing to protect our interests around the globe. Under President Trump, the U.S. is not only back, it is also in the lead and moving persuasively forward. So that was Liz Peek. I thought that was a good way to wrap up that discussion. Speaking of Israel, and we know that AOC said that they were involved in genocide. Very despicable thing to say, especially in Munich. But Trump says the Board of Peace, remember the Board of Peace? It will discuss how to use $5 billion. They've raised $5 billion already for Gaza projects. They haven't decided yet. The Board of Peace will meet later this week at the White House. The fundraising haul announced ahead of Thursday's summit represents a down payment on the estimated $70 billion cost to rebuild the Palestinian enclave. It's going to go to making Gaza happen, Trump said in a brief telephone interview. The funds would go to making Gaza stable and ultimately, I think, to other areas of the world that can, where peace can be brought about. Asked if the pledges would go toward building housing for Gaza's nearly 2 million people, Trump said, "We haven't decided yet. That'll be up on the board." Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who helped broker a ceasefire deal this past October after 2 years of fighting between Israel and Hamas that flattened much of Gaza, presented ambitious plans at last month's World Economic Forum in Davos. If you recall, I don't think we ended up showing you the picture screen or the picture on the screen, but some pretty amazing ideas for Gaza. So they will be meeting later this week. All right, we got a couple completely different things when we return, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Month after month, year after year, even decades you've paid into the insurance system. You've done your part, but when you're seriously injured in a car accident or another tragedy, that system turns its back. Insurance companies care more about pumping up profits and stock prices than paying for your medical bills, your lost wages, or your recovery. At WYDC Injury Law, we fight to make them pay what's fair. If you've been hurt in New York or Pennsylvania, call 607-500-HURT. Don't let the insurance companies win.
Do you want free internet? Forever? You got it. Really. We mean it. Spectrum is offering free fiber-powered internet forever. Want it? Just call this number and switch 4 mobile lines to Spectrum for a lifetime of internet you never pay for. It's not a trial, it's an unprecedented offer. So we'll say it again. Free fiber-powered internet forever. Have you called yet? Because your internet is forever. But this ad ends now.
With the game full swing, stop in Hesselson's today and see why Ona Sauna will bring calmness and stress relief naturally. Infrared, traditional rock saunas, and hybrid saunas. Hesselson's has them all on display in their expanded and remodeled showroom. Better circulation. Detox the skin through sweating. Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. Now is the time to make every day better with your own sauna, starting at just $39.99. And remember, after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Being a boy, well, I don't know anything different. I had a very successful career. Life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally. And then I got hurt. I dug into mental health. I wanted to be better as a person. I start my day with a workout. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. Mark says maybe if Newsom didn't let all the illegals into California, it wouldn't be in such a deficit and have so many homeless. Thank you, Mark. Comment from a different viewer. On the Gutfeld show last night, Tyrus was talking about the AOC speech and nicknamed her MC Stammer. Thank you very much. Hey, speaking of word salads, the one who kind of put that in our lexicon was one Kamala Harris. Listen to this. The Democratic National Committee purchased a donor list from a political action committee backing ex-Vice President Kamala Harris for $6.5 million late last year, even as the National Party's main fundraising arm remained more than $16 million in debt. So even though they're $16 million in debt at the DNC, they bought Kamala Harris's donor list, which seems a little bit like a payoff, right? Here you go. Here's an extra $6.5 million. The Fight for the People PAC received $3.5 million from the DNC on November 28th and another $3 million on December 29th, according to the Federal Election Commission filing. The Harris-aligned Super PAC then used the cash infusion to pay off campaign expenses more than a year after the Democrats lost to Donald Trump, including more than $3.9 million in media production, polling fees totaling $293,000 and $99,000 to the hip-hop band The Roots, managing company for a performance in Philadelphia. So we talked about a lot of times when there are these kind of celebrities, which I thought people would have learned after Hillary Clinton, that celebrities maybe not the winning ticket. But we learned that in Kamala's case, many of them were being paid for. Or you have a scenario like when Beyonce was kind of billed, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, she'll probably perform. And of course she didn't. She just gave an endorsement, angering many of Kamala Harris's supporters at that time. But think of that. So she ultimately spent, around $2 billion in 107 days, and she's still in debt? Imagine what she would have done for the country. Imagine what she would have done with your taxpayer dollars if that's how much money she spent, still in debt, and now the DNC is in debt. The Republican National Committee bested the DNC in total fundraising for 2025, recording more than $172 million in contributions and at least $95 million cash on hand. The DNC took in nearly $146 million in total fundraising, but had just over $14 million cash on hand and was $17.5 million in the red as of the end of last year, as of December 31st. So $17 million in debt, and they're buying a donor list from Kamala Harris. Tell me that makes sense. In total, the party has absorbed around $22 million in debts related to Kamala Harris's campaign. At the time, the first payment for the donor list, the DNC had roughly $12.6 million cash on hand and $15.9 million in debts, raising questions among many by some party members about is it a smart move, essentially? The prudence of the purchase. The party lost around $6 million from its campaign war chest in November alone as its spending outpaced donations. Well, you got to say they're running their campaign like they run when they're in office, in debt. Deep-pocketed donors like media mogul Barry Diller and former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg had expressed weariness of contributing any more funds to the Democratic Party. Quote, "For me, this really brings questions about the campaign's finances, how transparent everything has been regarding the 2024 campaign, what has been spent, and what are the lessons we need to learn coming from that experience," said DNC member Tim Lynn. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If I was a big donor, I'd say, you're just wasting this at this point. Why would you buy that donor list? Why, when you're $17 million in debt? Former Harris senior advisor Kristen Allen said it is the standard after a presidential campaign for there to be extended reconciliation period as outstanding invoices are received, processed, and refunds are issued. Since the campaign ended, the vice president has helped raise millions of dollars for the DNC and candidates nationwide. And heading into the midterm, she will expand that effort, supporting candidates up and down the ballot. I don't know. Again, if I'm donating, I would like to know where my money's going. $6.5 million more for that donor list when they're already in debt, and Kamala Harris's campaign is still in debt. Amazing how much money they spent in 107 days. Okay, so Senate Majority Leader, how am I doing on time? Okay, Senate Majority Leader John Thune is ready to put Senate Democrats to the test on voter ID legislation. We talked about this last week. The Safeguard American Voter Eligibility America Act, or SAVE, has earned the backing of 50 Senate Republicans, including Thune, who is enough to break through a key procedural hurdle. Whether it can pass from the Senate to President Trump's desk is, for now, an unlikely scenario if lawmakers take the traditional path in the upper chamber. Still, Thune wants to put Democrats on the spot as midterm elections creep closer. Quote, "We will have a vote," said Thune. His comments came as he crisscrossed his home state of South Dakota, where he and Republicans in the respective states are outselling their legislative achievements as primary season fast approaches. Thune viewed the opportunity of a floor vote as a ways to have Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and his caucus explain to voters why they would block a legislative push to federally enshrine voter ID and proof of citizenship to register to vote. Thune saying, "We will make sure that everybody's on the record. If they want to be against ensuring that only American citizens vote in our elections, they can defend that when they have to go out and campaign against Republicans this fall." Now, did you see Scott Jennings on CNN? He's on the right, and he just laid into their kind of Democrat talking points, which is very uncomfortable when you even hear them say it, that certain populations, I guess, cannot be trusted to get a voter or an ID to vote. It's a very uncomfortable argument, and Scott Jennings called it out for sure. Now, the political makeup of the Senate will prove a tricky path to navigate if Republicans want to pass the bill. Though the majority of the Senate GOP backed the bill, with at least a handful of Senate Democrats joining them, it is destined to fall victim to the 60-vote filibuster threshold. And Schumer has time and time again made clear that he and the majority of Senate Democrats view the legislation, which passed the House last week, as a tool of voter suppression, where Schumer's favorite go-to line is that it is Jim Crow 2.0. So the Senate Republicans are looking for other options. One, which Thune already threw cold water on, is nuking the Senate filibuster. The other is turning to the talking or standing filibuster. It is the physical precursor to the current filibuster that requires hours upon hours of debate over a bill. Some fear that taking that path could paralyze the Senate floor. Thune acknowledged that concern, having previously made it himself, but noted another wrinkle. Quote, "A lot of people focus on unlimited debate, and yes, it is something that could drag on for weeks or literally, for that matter, months. But it's also unlimited amendments, meaning that every amendment, there's no rules, so every amendment will be 51 votes. He argued that there are several politically challenging amendments that could hit the floor that would put members in tough re-elections in a hard spot and possibly cause them to pass, which could also be very detrimental to the bill in the end. Thune didn't shut down the idea of turning to the talking filibuster, especially if it ended in lawmakers being able to actually pass the Save America Act. Quote, "I think that, this is obviously a mechanism of trying to pursue an outcome, but I don't know that in the end it'll get you the outcome you want, and there could be a lot of damage along the way." Now, Trump is... That's obviously two different things. I got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll be right back.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lecom Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Some moments call for more than a drink. They call for a scotch. Rich, patient, crafted over time. Every bottle tells a story.
Yeah, I'll take it. What? Bit drafty in here.
Foster's. Elevate your spirits.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you could throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Pretty mild out there today as we top out near 50 degrees. That's a good 10 to 15 degrees above average. Might have a couple of very light showers and or snow showers very early this morning, but things will be quieting down. And then some steadier rain develops during the day tomorrow, and looking at some mild conditions yet through Friday. Another rain snow chance on Friday, and looking at some cooler temperatures with a light snow chance.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Comments from viewers. Good morning. Good morning. New scum like Hollywood and Disney live in an animated fantasy world comprised of arm-waving puppets. We can only hope that the earthquake that threatens to dump California in the ocean will come soon. Then another comment from the same viewer. I was busy cussing you for not reading my message regarding New Scum. But did I hear it right that the Democrat Party doesn't have a lot of money? If so, that's great news for Republicans in view of the coming midterms. Donate to the RNC. Yes, they're in debt. By the way, sometimes the time frame doesn't work when I come back from a break, and I don't like to just read things without going over them at least once, okay? So not everything's personal. But having said that, yes, they are in debt. The Democrats are heavily in debt. They have cash on hand. That's where it gets a little tricky. But they were, what was it? Numbers never stick with me that good. But $17 million in debt. And I would agree. If you donate to the RNC, it will have a lot more impact. Okay. Comment from a different viewer. Jared Kushner should be nowhere near the Trump administration. He was one of the thorns in Trump's side in the first administration. Well, he played a very important role in the Abraham Accords. I know that. I don't remember much else from Jared Kushner. I know there was something at the beginning, right, where there was a problem with him. But I remember he was an important part of the Abraham Accords. Okay. Donald Trump said Monday that Democrats are to blame for the partial government shutdown, as Republicans and Democrats have yet to reach a deal on funding the Department of Homeland Security. Speaking to reporters on Air Force One, Trump boasted of great financial numbers, such as low inflation and falling fuel prices. Great financial numbers. You saw low inflation, very low inflation. Prices are down, way down. Gasoline is less than $2 a gallon in many places, which nobody expected to see. But I did this going by the initial expression of drill, baby, drill. Prices are coming down very strongly, and as goes gasoline and oil and gas, so does the rest of other products that are high. We inherited a mess, and we've brought our country back. Then he was asked, again, this is on one of those Air Force One press gaggles. When asked about the partial shutdown over DHS funding, Trump said it is a Democrat shutdown that has nothing to do with Republicans. This is, and I quote, a Democrat shutdown that has nothing to do with Republicans, and Democrats shut down. They're upset that the crime numbers are so good. They're very upset that there's a movement. They don't want voter ID because they want to cheat in elections. And that's in reference to the SAFE Act that we just talked about. They don't want mail-in ballots. They want to end mail-in ballots. And one other thing that Republicans are insisting on is proof of citizenship. And the Democrats don't want to give proof of citizenship. They don't want to give voter ID. He said he was willing to meet with Democrats to discuss the plan to end the shutdown, but stressed that we have to protect our law enforcement and that immigration officers have done a great job in removing criminals that were brought in. The president also said he would still give his State of the Union speech scheduled for next week if there is still a shutdown. Oh, interesting. I didn't even think of that. Is that later than normal? The State of the Union. I'll look forward to that. Well, agreements, speaking of ICE, agreements that allow local police to work with ICE have skyrocketed. There are 1,168 agencies which all officers signed up to help ICE up from 135 during the Biden administration and 150 at the end of Trump's first term, now up to 1,168, according to NBC. That's an increase of 950% in the first year of Trump's second term. As of January the 26th, there was 1,168 agencies with officers trained to help ICE, up from 135, as I mentioned. The Trump administration has called on local law enforcement to support its growing deportation operations nationwide, reviving a controversial task force model that allows local police officers to be deputized by ICE to stop people and make arrests based on suspicion that someone is in the country illegally. Under the program, police are deputized to ICE while they're also expected to continue doing their regular work. The Dallas Police Department recently rejected a proposal to join, citing concerns that their officers would be pulled away from their normal duties. There's some examples of this. Of course, it's going to be presented in a negative way from NBC. But ICE's advertising for the program promised to give law enforcement agencies $7,500 for equipment per trained officer, $100,000 for new vehicles, and overtime pay up to 25% of an officer's salary. The analysis shows 39 states have policy agreements now, or policing agencies now participating, but didn't give the total number. Now, when we talk about ICE, some sheriffs in Maryland are vowing to continue working with ICE in defiance of their Democratic governor. Governor Wes Moore is expected to sign a bill banning official agreements between local police and the federal agency. But the move may get some pushback, according to the Baltimore Sun. The bill may end 287 agreements, which 8 Maryland counties currently have. The state currently allows 2 different types of T87 agreements. One that allows correctional officers to flag non-citizens to ICE and detain them for 48 hours, and another one that allows allows officers to serve warrants on jailed non-citizens. According to the Sun report, Carroll County Sheriff James DeWeese is taking a hard stance. No politician or legislative body is going to tell me that I can't communicate with another law enforcement agency on matters of public safety in my community. I'm not going to stop. The bill bans the agreements, and then in typical Annapolis fashion, they supply no alternative, adding he will create a policy within my office to continue working with ICE. Frederick County Sheriff Chuck Jenkins said this is all political. You could put any lipstick you want on it. It's all political. The Democrats don't want any cooperation with ICE. They don't want any enforcement whatsoever. Well, and we saw that. As a matter of fact, who was it that said it? I had a quote here. I wonder if I lost it. That they wanted the complete disbandment of ICE. Darn it, did I lose it? I wonder who. Yeah, anyway. I had it here at one point, now I don't. But that's what the ultimate goal is. They want the end to ICE. We saw that a little bit here locally with the protests that happened a couple weeks ago. No more work with ICE. But cooperation with ICE, according to Emily Kenney, Governor Hochul recently said, now we're going to the state issues real quick, recently said she would ban all partnership that allows local law enforcement to work with federal immigration agents. Madison County is one of 8 counties in the state cooperating with the federal government, but only for people who have committed a crime in New York. We don't have to go through the individuals here. But a lot of it is kind of what we talked about here. Our agreement does not extend beyond the walls of this prison. It is 100% a jail program. The department has had one individual who qualified, and they just specifically why they're just bringing up Madison County. But other counties in New York with warrant service officer models include Broome, Nassau, Niagara, Otsego, and Steuben counties. The counties with the task force model are Nassau, Niagara, Steuben, and Cattaraugus. 3 municipalities have task force models in place, which include Allegheny Village Police, Camden Police, and Wayland Police Departments, according to ICE's website. If someone is not brought into the jail, there's nothing Madison County deputies are going to do immigration enforcement-wise. No one on our road patrol is certified under the warrant service officer model. It is only jail deputies. So that's that in Madison County. During a press conference last month, Governor Hochul said she wanted to ban these agreements, the 287 agreements. However, she said her top priority is to protect New York residents. Quote, when individuals enter the country illegally, and commit crimes, I want them to be arrested and tried. If they're convicted, they must be imprisoned and deported. That's what we have been doing for decades here because I need to protect the immigrant community from criminals as well, Hochul said. The Department of Homeland Security said in a press release, when politicians bar local law enforcement from working with DHS, our law enforcement officers have to have a more visible presence so that we can find and apprehend the criminals, let out of jails back into the community. DHS said that there are currently 7,113 aliens with criminal charges in the state, and McLaughlin concluded her statement by calling on Hochul to turn them over to federal agencies. So there you are. We got a couple other things here on this. Couple other things on ICE, but we got to take a short break. A couple other New York State issues, but we're going to jump back to ICE here for just a moment. Kind of this anti-ICE rhetoric, which we saw here in Steuben County. Was it last week or was it the week before? I think time flies, but I think it was the week before where there were the protests at the legislative meeting. Remember, the people were misled about what was being signed in. I don't know if it was outright lie, fabrication, or if it was an ignorance, but they said that Steuben County was going to build a detention center. They were not. But that still brought protesters in who didn't do their own research themselves, and then they were told, no, that's not the case, but they still don't like ICE. So they said the old ICE is not the same as the new ICE. The old ICE under Tom Homan in the Obama era is not the same as the new ICE with Tom Homan at the helm. I don't quite understand it, but that's what they're protesting here. So we've got a couple other things. I see your comments coming in. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will be right back.
Suburban Propane is here for your residential and industrial propane needs. Serving the surrounding area for over 95 years, we take pride in our reliable delivery service with 24/7, 365 emergency service answered by company representatives. Call today to start your Suburban Propane service.
It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Pretty mild out there today as we top out near 50 degrees. That's a good 10 to 15 degrees above average. Might have a couple of very light showers and or snow showers very early this morning, but things will be quieting down. And then some steadier rain develops during the day tomorrow, and looking at some mild conditions yet through Friday. Another rain snow chance on Friday, and looking at some cooler temperatures with a light snow chance.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. Just a comment, Democrats and Pinocchio have a lot in common. Both are controlled by puppet masters, do a lot of arm waving, and lack of a brain. Thank you, viewer. Ken writes in, as I was watching some legacy media, I happen to think they almost never have a Republican on, stating their side of an issue or impending vote. But Fox has Dems on all the time, spewing their propaganda. That alone should show the sheeple that the legacy media is the propaganda voice of the Democratic Party. How is anyone able to make an informed decision on who to elect for the betterment of the country if they only listen to one side? Opinion shows are able to say what they want, and they should be allowed to. But news shows need to be reined in and forced to air both sides of an issue, instead of covering themselves legally, but telling you that for more of the story, you can go to the station's website, which no one does. Right. Yeah, I mean, well, that's definitely, okay, this is not news, I know, but look at the late night shows. When that was coming out with the guests that they had, it was like 90%. There's only one or two Republicans ever. With Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert. But with the news, it's the same. You can't get to the other side. You just hear the talking points of the left on the mainstream legacy media. I couldn't agree more, Ken. Thank you for that. Mentioning ICE, a woke Portland, Oregon pizzeria. Listen to this. They've been bombarded by diners visiting its website with an unhinged anti-ICE rant before then claiming that food is political. The note, posted on Taste Bud's website, that's the name of the pizza shop, which has gone viral, called for the end of immigration customs enforcement. ICE out everywhere, because this is exactly what you want when you order your pizza. I know I want a political message when I order my pizza. ICE out everywhere. Food is political. No one is illegal on stolen land. Blank ICE. Abolish ICE. What is it? Just out of curiosity. Okay, so Billie Eilish said that at the Grammys, that no one is illegal on stolen land. What makes you then post it to your website as if you're clever? Not that Billie Eilish was the first one to say it either, but it just seems like such a, not a leader, a follower, right? But I will say it is unique. I have not heard food is political. Food is political. There's other, it gives a lot more political ramblings than that. The note then started to ramble about issues such as the Epstein file and transgender politics. Okay, let's see if I can read the whole thing. Let's see. Food is political. This is when you order your pizza in Portland, Oregon. ICE out everywhere. Food is political. No one is illegal on stolen land. Blank ICE. Abolish ICE. Release the Trump Epstein files. Pathetic. Free Palestine. Black Lives Matter. Trans women are women. Love your LGBTQ neighbors. The Holocaust was real. Healthcare is a human right. Masks save lives. Get your blank vaccines. Wash your hands. Germ theory is science. Cook chicken to 165 and stay hydrated. That is what the takeout menu looks like at Taste Bud in Portland, Oregon. A lot that you could dissect there. So that's what they're going to call it, the Trump Epstein. That's pathetic. Needless to say, they received a lot of backlash. Since we're receiving attention for our statement, we've experienced a surge of hateful, harassing, and abusive reviews, calls, and emails. This is concerning for our staff, our family, and our guests. I found this interesting because someone will wade into politics, and they'll be say such things as blank ICE and say some very forceful things. And then when they receive pushback, they always suggest that it's hateful or harassing. Well, think of the language they were using. How does that work? It's only good one way, huh? Food is political because care has become political. Trump and Epstein mentions have been nixed, and the restaurant claims it stands for human rights, equality, science, and collective care. Waiting is not caution. Silence is not neutrality. Both are permissions. Our country does not survive because it is written down. It survives only if people refuse to endure its unraveling. Wow, they try to get poetic. I've spent enough on this. There you are. But again, when the backlash happens, they're not ready for it, and they change their tune quickly. Also, since we're talking about kind of that culture, a top Trump administration official revealed Monday that the Justice Department was investigating a report that a Turning Point USA chapter in Maryland was referred to Child Protective Services by a left-wing community member. Harmeet Dillon said, "I'm looking into this." The woman, who identified herself as Nancy Cross, claimed parents were not permitted at the Northern High School TPUSA chapter meeting and expressed concerns with school board members allegedly speaking to the club. Students are widely recognized as a vulnerable population in critical developmental stages and especially susceptible to influence. All Board of Education members in this room are mandated reporters under state law, as I am. Based on the circumstances surrounding this event, a report was made to Child Protective Services. So Krause, believing, and this is a lot what happens when you're surrounding yourself in academia your whole life, there should be no other idea than Miss Krause's, right? So because the students had people speak at their event, school board members, this person who wants only the indoctrination to continue apparently on high school campuses and college campuses, called Child Protective Services. You can just tell by her attitude, kind of smug, arrogant. Education Freedom Institute President Corey DeAngelis described Krause as a left-wing Karen in a social media post. These lunatics want to take your kids away if you're conservative. DeAngelis fumed. That's what Krause has signaled. Luke Grover, the president of the Northern High School TPUSA chapter, spoke at the same school board meeting where Krause registered her complaint, saying, "We're not up for any problems. We're not causing any harm. We're not doing anything wrong. Our first meeting was in November, and we wrote letters for veterans and had productive discussions about how we can support our veteran community." Grover decried the misinformation that has been spread about our group, including accusations that the high school club is grooming children, which he vehemently denied. This is just what this boils down to. Is this person, this Krause, does not like a different opinion other than hers, and in academia, it's only supposed to be her opinion. It's only supposed to be kind of the left-wing push. So just another example of the mindset there. We've got to take a short break. Well, no, since I'm talking about that, I can take a second because I want to talk about New York State issues when we return. One last thing on this, because that's about Turning Point USA. Listen to this. And by the way, if you're out there and you hate Donald Trump and you hate Republicans and you hate MAGA, just don't go to social media and need that validation so bad. Go along your hateful ways, but do you have to go to social media? Another quote-unquote educator is learning their lesson about that. A left-leaning California teacher has sparked a social media firestorm after going on a rant about whom she described as MAGA educators, blasting them as pathetic and selfish people. "How do we have so many MAGA teachers?" said the woman. Teacher Noel Carney Campbell, who, guess what, has since deleted the TikTok video. Saying those two words together makes me want to throw up in my mouth. Very clever stuff from Miss Noel Carney Campbell. Just saying MAGA and teachers together. It's just another way to expose, just like that at that school board meeting, the bias that we all know is there and alive and well, just getting into it. In the video, guess what? Filmed in her classroom, Campbell said that unlike doctors, teachers don't take an oath to prioritize students. She added that while many educators are passionate and care deeply about children, the profession allows some pretty lazy, pathetic, and selfish people in. MAGA teachers exist. They're not really quiet about it either. Shockingly, coming from someone that went on social media to talk about this, like so many of our brethren have done in the past. Shockingly, a lot of them work in neighborhoods they shouldn't be around because of how they vote against them and how they feel towards them. Our students deserve better, and I don't know if this will ever be fixed unless we oath to this type of service. So unless you sign an oath to push a left-wing agenda, you probably shouldn't be a teacher, according to this teacher. As one Twitter user said, teachers should respect different viewpoints and keep personal politics out of the classroom. Her intolerance kills diverse classroom thought. She was the one-time Teacher of the Year in the Santa Ana Unified School District in California. Noel Carney Campbell made the comments in a January 27th post. She was laid off last year as part of the district's budget-driven cuts affecting nearly 400 staff members. Again, I've just got to say, if you hate Trump and you hate MAGA and you're in education, you're a doctor or something like that, just don't feel that need to get a like, to get some type of share on social media. Just keep it to yourself. But they can't. There's something about it, ironically, that they cannot. But we got to take a break. Boy, this show's moving along quickly. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lecom Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Comments from viewers. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Here's a kick in the seat of the pants for you. Trump's popularity among Gen Zers was plus 10 points in February of 2025. It's now minus 32 points, a swing in the negative direction of 42 points in a year. Fine job, Trump. Rick. Okay, comment from a different viewer regarding your last thought before the break. It is clear that Democrats hold to the following: do as I say, not as I do. In other words, don't be a hypocrite. Yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy there, but they can still be a hypocrite. Just why do they need the likes and the validation from their echo chambers so much? It just blows my mind. Hey, a couple quick things, because I already got to take a break, and then I'm going to read all of your comments before we wrap up, or I'll try to. It is being reported that former gubernatorial candidate Mark Molinaro, remember that name? He plans to run for a state assembly seat. A person familiar with Molinaro said that over the weekend, the Republican is planning to run for the 102nd State Assembly District, which is being vacated by Chris Tague, who is running for a state Senate seat. This comes after Molinaro announced on social media he is leaving his post as administrator of the Federal Transit Administration, which he was confirmed by the U.S. Senate for back in August. Molinaro said his last day on the federal job will be February 20th, and that New York is being run into the ground. So he's only staying there for that long, huh? Now, if you don't remember Molinaro's full resume and tenure, he joined the Trump administration, but then before that, he served a single term in the U.S. House of Representatives in New York's 19th congressional district. He won the seat in 2022, but lost re-election in 2024 in a rematch contest with Democrat Josh Riley. Before that, Molinaro had a long history in politics. He served as Dutchess County executive, county legislator, mayor, and even in the state assembly, the office he is now interested in returning to. He's also the Republican nominee for governor in 2018. Hey, one more New York thing when we come back. Stay with us. Get your last second comments in, and we'll be right back after this.
Ferrari Auto Team.
The best hockey rink?
Ask Google. The best jewelry store? Ask Google.
The best Ram dealer?
Ask Google. We did. Google reviews from customers rank Ferrario Ram in Elmira the highest Ram dealer in our area.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
Check out the new Rams with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty during Ram Truck Month.
Visit Ferrario in Elmira or at Ferrario.com.
It's the Jeep and Stay sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. Pretty mild out there today as we top out near 50 degrees. That's a good 10 to 15 degrees above average. Might have a couple of very light showers and or snow showers very early this morning, but things will be quieting down. And then some steadier rain develops during the day tomorrow, and looking at some mild conditions yet through Friday. Another rain snow chance on Friday, and looking at some cooler temperatures with a light snow chance once again.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Ken writes in, they have to validate their Democrat card, so all will know that they are doing as expected, and they hope to be praised for it. You're right. That's really what it is. They've got to show that they care. These are in reference to teachers and doctors who have been putting out some pretty vile things about Trump and MAGA. But you're right. It's to signal to their friends that they're the most aggrieved, that they're the most upset, that they're the most offended. And then they get all the likes and, oh, great job, babe, those type of comments on social media. And at least for a while, it makes them feel good. But then you'll read later that they took the post down because guess what? Educators... people don't like seeing their kid's teacher screaming about how bad their politics are. It's not a good business move. Ken writes in, there are four kinds of liars. Liars, darn liars, Dems, and the pollsters. Thank you, Ken. Hey, what states are losing residents all have in common? You know, New York State, we have people leaving in mass exodus. Hint, it's not low taxes. What do these states have in common? California, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, and Hawaii. Each of them also appeared in the bottom 10 on the Tax Foundation's most recent state tax competitiveness index. New York has, get this, New York has the least competitive tax code on the list, followed by neighbor New Jersey, then come California, Connecticut, and Maryland. So it's not low taxes that are driving people out of our state, and I know they say that tongue-in-cheek. Festive convention for the Republicans as Blakeman was chosen as the gubernatorial candidate, but it masks internal tension for New York Republicans. Divided upstate, downstate, bruised about how the statewide ticket sorted out, apathetic because of the current polls and the decision by some to quit the campaign before it ever started. They swore it could be turned around in time to carry Bruce Blakeman to victory over Hochul, despite his more than 20-point deficit in the poll, because Election Day is still 9 months away. They say that these rifts are typical in politics and at conventions. But they agree the party has internal work to be done. There's a huge problem, especially upstate, said Chapin Fay, a Republican strategist and former Pataki administration member. Asked to name the problem, Fay said apathy. Look how many people are here, pointing to an empty convention. They are just very frustrated. Look, I think Bruce Blakeman is our best governor candidate since Pataki, but there's a structural problem when that party he is going to have to address. It's bad. It's very divided. And Bruce Blakeman's team hasn't done enough to mitigate it. A throwaway upstate sheriff isn't going to do it, and that's who he picked for his lieutenant governor. Blakeman and the entire ticket need to spend a lot of time upstate to do a barnstorm tour, maybe. I don't want to say easily, but I do think he can be patched. The fact, that's what's so frustrating, though. You think about Elise Stefanik, and she didn't need to go around and stump in upstate. She could have focused all her time on the city, where even Bruce Blakeman himself said, well, I've got to make those people in upstate feel better about my candidacy. That's scary. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the discussion. That was fun. Please join us every weekday morning, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already.
Foster's, your destination for both essential classics and new sensory journeys. Looking for something smooth and velvety? or long and satisfied? With a savory, spicy finish? With originally recognized bourbon section? Let us be your guide. Foster's, elevate your spirits.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you could throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
You had fever? Are you dreaming of warmer weather? Now's the time to start enjoying the benefits of hot water therapy during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale. With 0% interest financing and additional sales incentives, Hesselson's makes it easier to start making every day better today. Huge savings on odds and end models, 0% financing, locally owned and operated since 1955. Why wait? Now is the best time to buy that hot tub you've always wanted during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale going on now. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.